Hello, I am Part Tom, and I'm here with a clan war again, between XP again, and this time bYs. Both clans involving Master League and Diamond League players. So these should all be pretty good matches. But in the top right of this map, the Antigua Shipyard, we have BeautiNator for Team bYs, and he is going to be playing in the pink Zerg, and in the bottom left we have Twinkie for Team XP, who's going to be playing Zerg in the green drunks. So the map that we've got here is Antigua Shipyard. That should be pretty good, because there'll be most likely 15 hatches by both players, although they could also alternate up with 14 pool, 14 gases, which give you a more defensive style. Or you could even see early pool timings, which will mean that they'll get a very offensive build, so that could be either a 6 pool, a 7 pool, or something else. But we see now they both aren't doing that. The question is which player is going to be able to find out what the other is, what they're doing first. And it looks like Twinkie was told previous to the game that it was only cross spawns, so he's sending his overlord right over there, but unfortunately BeautiNator's sending his round on the side, so he doesn't yet know. He knows it's not here because there's no creep, but he currently thinks it could either be here or here, but we all know that in fact they are cross spawns, and it is bottom left and top right. So we're seeing a 15 hatch go down for Twinkie, and alternately we're seeing about 15 pool, I think that might have been, maybe 14 for BeautiNator, followed by a reasonably timed 15 hatchery, which allows them to be just that little bit more safe against any super aggressive cheesy plays. So the way this is going to work is there's going to be 4 players, I think, for each team, and each of them plays, winner stays on until one team has no players left. The gas is actually also an interesting factor in Zerg vs Zerg, because slowlings and banelings are what actually defend pushes. So it's not a matter so much, after you've got past the early pool timings, it's not a matter so much of how many Zerglings you've got, it's how early your gas was, so you've got the faster speed Zerglings, because you can physically just run straight around Zerglings with yours, which prevents them from either escaping or lets you kill the opponent's drones or queens if they actually send their slow Zerglings out, because they're then out of position. Also with Zerg vs Zerg there's incredible reliance on how many drones you've got, in which the person with the most drones essentially wins in most cases. You can almost outline Zerg vs Zerg as the race to get the most drones whilst being alive, which is similar to the rest of the matchups, but not quite. So as we've seen, Twinkie made several Zerglings, so he could be going for a timing push, but most likely he's not so much, because he has drones in production, although unfortunately he's sending some out right here. So you'll also see that both players have started spreading out their overlords, so they can get a good idea of where all of the units are on the map, and even better even for BeautiNator. So these 6 Zerglings are probably just going to poke in, won't be able to do any damage, won't even be able to get a scout off because of these 2 queens. But Spine Crawler's going up as part of defence, he might be able to get a Zergling or 2. I think that Twinkie has only just realised that he actually has drones with this push, and this will be easily held back, even though the Spine Crawler's got not much health left now. And as you see, BeautiNator now has 6 more drones. He probably would have done slightly better to wait for that push, so that he had more, so that he had Zergling speed and more Zerglings, so that he could actually do a full push. Because as it was, he just found himself headbutting against some queens. Twinkie's now actually going for 2 evolution chambers, which could be part of a wall off, and that's how he's doing them. But it could also mean that he's going to be going for some sort of roach timing, is a possibility. In fact, that's what I'd expect off just a single gas geyser. If he was going to go for Mutalisk, I'd expect him to have taken another gas. And that's a good point actually by Warlang. The Zergling's speed for your BeautiNator is incredibly late, which I'm not sure I like, because you end up using Zerglings in pretty much every single game, because they're just so good and so versatile and so quick, really. So XP Twinkie is now actually sending out some Zerglings to probably just do some small scouts, maybe deny some creep, hopefully pick off a queen, but also scout the third and deny it if it gets put down. And as you see, the slow Zerglings just can't do anything against these quick Zerglings, although because there's more of them he probably ought to have just turned around and attacked. But faster Zerglings are surprisingly even slightly better at attacking than slow Zerglings, because they can move more quickly after they've killed one Zergling to kill a different one. So BeautiNator's now almost full, well, he's 12 drones ahead, so he's got a much bigger economy, and the question is what tech are they both going to be going for. So it looks like a burrow roach timing coming out from Twinkie. That'll probably be going with speed the moment he gets this roach warren up, and he won't be planning so much on taking his own third for quite some time, I shouldn't think, although he could do it while he's moving out with his push. However, I don't think that it'll be all that effective, because BeautiNator's doing a similar push timing, as he's got slightly later upgrades, but he's instead skipping the burrow, which I'm fine with. The burrow is a very useful spell, but it doesn't always do all that much. So they're slowly working down on these rocks here, but the roaches are going to deny that. Also, when you scout roaches, you don't need to think about pulling back in your overlords nearly so quickly, because if there's either Mutalisks or Hydralisks, then you're incredibly vulnerable to losing at least 60 population worth of overlords if you've spread them much more than you ought to have done. And unfortunately, I think that because BeautiNator has had this slightly higher econ for the entire game, it looks like he's going to be able to safely take his third at the same time as defending the push, which will be coming out most likely from Twinkie. Although it looks like he's not actually going to be going for a timing push, Twinkie. He's instead going to be delaying for a bit and teching up into infestors with more defense while he gets his own third. But unfortunately, this will actually just put him further and further behind, because BeautiNator's had this economy for so long. I do love this creep thread actually by BeautiNator. It's incredibly good and allows him to see into the map, so that he doesn't need overlords even if they start getting taken out. What are the upgrades on both players? So both starting on 2-2. But BeautiNator's actually going for quite an interesting competition of Roach Hydralisk, which can work incredibly well, but can also be very risky, because the Infest is incredibly strong if you manage to get a good fungal off, but if you can attack in small groups, then the Hydralisks are very good, because they just kind of work better as a single unit. It's kind of hard to describe, really. It's similar to mech in a way, where if you move out with only 3 tanks and maybe 2 Thors, then you'll just lose. But if you wait until you've got that full population, then you'll do really well. And actually, BeautiNator's taking out so many overlords right now, supply blocking Twinkie all the way down to 88, while he's 60 population ahead. I'm not sure where this is, but the banelings are actually going to come straight into the Hydralisk and see if they can do any very good detonations, because they take extra damage from this, but they won't be able to. The Roach, however, is trying to stream forward, but there just isn't enough, and he's slowly being taken out as this force is still here, and reinforcements are streaming in from the back, while Twinkie's just unable to do anything apart from burrow and hope that his reinforcements are slightly better. But the question is, if he continues this push, will he be able to hold on? The Infestors are only coming out in 50 seconds. He's had that slightly too late, and the Hydralisks are doing incredibly well because he had that good timing push. He's now moving into the third, and I'm not entirely sure if Twinkie can hold on. I physically don't, because these are able to kill the hatchery, and these are just able to kill the reinforcements that are very slowly just coming in one by one. You cannot kill that many roaches if you're only sending one roach at a time. And it looks like he's now 100 supply ahead, he's floating 1k, and I'm not sure if there's anything he can do. I'm really not. The Infestors are now out though, but they've forgotten to get the pathogen glands. This is horrible. He's only able to make infested Terrans, and he's not even managing to do that. I think he's just given up. LOL comes out, didn't get pathogen glands, and that's GG. That's 1 up to Team bYs as BeautiNator goes on.